All right, the story you're about to hear is true. I'm not making this up. This falls under the category of always be ready. So I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. It's about 2 years ago. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm one of the speakers, but I'm only doing a workshop. There's a big keynote speaker for the big event. It's like 3,000 people, but I'm doing one of the workshops, right? So I drive up from Atlanta, Georgia to Nashville, which is about a 2 hour ride, right? Two and a half hour ride. And I remember the night before the big event, the company, I'll just call it the company's having this big event, right? And there's this big celebration. And they invited all the speakers to be there, all the workshop speakers and the keynote speaker. And I'm like, I'm there with my wife. And I remember we passed by the event. It was too loud, too noisy. And I don't like to eat, drink, or socialize the night before I speak, right? And so I just want to get ready for the workshop mentally. So I'm in bed. I'm tucked away by 10 o'clock. By 10 p.m., I'm in bed, ready for the next day. And I have a workshop at about, I think it's like 10:30, 11 o'clock, right? So plenty of time to mentally prepare. So in bed, tucked away, counting sheep, I'm in bed, I'm sleeping. And all of a sudden, at like 2:30 in the morning, the phone rings, right? And I remember, I guess my cell phone had been going off, but I wasn't paying attention. And my wife had heard it, but she didn't want to wake me up. But then, after I guess 2 or 3 attempts on my cell phone, the actual hotel phone rings. Oh, it's gonna get good. This is gonna get good. The hotel phone rings, and I'm like, how you just, I answer the phone, and I'm just kind of groggy, right? I'm coming out of sleep, so I'm kind of groggy. And I'm like, hello. And they're like, Victor? And I go, yes. She goes, and I'll just say her name is Jan. This is Jan, who's the person putting together the event. I said, I don't mean to be calling you this late. And I'm like, what time is it? And it's like 2:30 in the morning. 2:30 in the morning, right? And I'm like, yeah, what's up? And she says, we've had an incident. I go, what do you mean? It's like, okay, what's the incident? She goes, well, we've had an incident with our main keynote speaker, right? I said, okay, he won't be able to do the keynote the following morning. We were wondering if you'd be willing to do the opening keynote. 3,000 people, would you be willing to do the opening keynote? Now I'm half asleep. And I'm like, sure. What time do you want me down there? And she says, well, if you can be down here by like 7:30 in the morning, that'd be great. And then you're on at like 8:30 or 9 o'clock. I said, okay, fine. Now, yes, we'll see you then. And I hang up the phone. Now, I'm groggy. And I'm like, I just agreed to do a keynote that I had not prepared for, right? In the sense. And and you know how when you hang up the phone, it's like you just start waking up. And my wife's like, well, what was that about? I said, I don't know. They lost their keynote. And they want me to do the keynote in the morning. And I just said yes. She goes, oh, okay. And so right at that point, I couldn't sleep, right? I remember I got up, and my routine is whenever I rehearse for a speech, true story, I'm not making this up, I usually have to take a hot shower. And in the hot shower, I just let basically the water hit me, and I'm just sitting there running a speech through my head. So I have to figure out what I'm going to talk about the next morning. And so, sure enough, I record it. It takes me about an hour. By 4:30 in the morning, I'm back. I'm back in bed, sleeping again. Set the alarm for about 6:30. Wake up, go downstairs. It's like 7:30. I'm down there, and I meet Jen. She's like, "Okay, Victor. I said, are you ready?" I said, "Do you want to do the whole hour, or do you just want to do a half an hour?" And I'm like, I'll do the whole hour. I mean, it's not a big deal to me." She goes, "Are you sure?" And I go, No, I'll do it." I said. And I didn't want to ask what happened to the main keynote speaker. I just said, no, I'll do the hour. I said, and then they keep asking me again. I said, can I ask, why do you keep asking me if I want to do a whole hour? I said, I'm comfortable doing an hour. She goes, don't take this personally, but you were not the first call. You were the third call. She goes, we called 2 other speakers this morning, and they both didn't want to do it because they hadn't had time to prepare. And so we just thought you might just want to do half an hour. I said, no, I'll do the full hour. Not a big deal. I'll do the full hour, right? And so sure enough, I get ready. I go up there. I do the full hour, and I kill it. I murdered the audience. I mean, it's a big crowd. It was like crazy. Now, how do I know I killed it? That's a good question to ask. Because the VP of this very large company, after I finished, told the coordinator, whatever you're paying him to do the workshop, just double his fee. Just double it. That's when you know you killed it. So what's the moral of the story? Always be prepared to be ready to speak. Even at a 2:30 in the morning call, I knew I could do the keynote because I know my material. So, that's one of the things we had to kind of prepare for. Unexpected, situations like this where things just happen and you just have to be ready. So that I call that the 2:30 a.m. phone call. and I had to be ready. And so the reason why, by the way, I don't even want to get into why the other speaker couldn't make it. There's a longer story there. It's a more personal story, and I don't want to get into it because it's kind of embarrassing for the actual speaker. But always remember to be ready. If you really know your content, you're always ready. So I got the 2:30 a.m. call. I was ready. You should always be ready. That's my story.